Are we there?
Okay, we're recording.
Good. Well, we're so glad to have everybody that's here. We were thinking it would be wonderful if everybody would just give us their name and just say if they've been on encounters before and where they're from. Could start with myself. I'm Michelle. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. And yes, I have been on encounters before.
I'll go next. I'm Kathy Davis from Scottsdale, Arizona. And yes, I've been on encounters before.
I'll go third then. I'm Sharon from Sydney, Australia. And I have been on a few with the group, but not in a live call like this. This is my first encounter in a live call.
So.
I'm Nancy McKinley, and I'm sort of split between Washington, D.C. and Kentucky, and this is not my first one.
Okay. Awesome. Regina?
Yeah, that's Jeannie. It's Jeannie.
Oh, hi, Jeannie.
Hi.
Well, there's someone on the there is someone called Regina that's on the call, Jeannie. Just to let you know.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that Jeannie is my birth name. I mean, Regina is my birthday name, and Jeannie is my nickname. So my phone says Regina.
Oh, so that
Right. Good, Regina. Oh.
okay, because your screen for your iPhone's still on, so I thought you were two different people.
I'm not sure how to do this Zoom thing. I couldn't figure it out. So.
Oh, you just go on the website. If you're on the computer, just Google Zoom, and then just click on zoom.us, and then you just see a little tab that says join a meeting, and then you just type in the ID. So it's really easy. You don't even have to download Zoom if you're on the computer. If you do it on the phone, you just have to download the app and then click on join a meeting.
Okay, did I do it right on the phone?
Yeah, you're here.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't need to hang up. I don't have a video camera on my computer. So.
Oh,
Okay.
well. Oh, it doesn't make a difference then.
So can you see us then?
I don't know.
Oh. Okay.
But you can hear us, and that's what matters, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear everybody. Yes.
Well, welcome, Jeannie.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Jeannie.
Hi, Kathy.
Oh, that was Sharon. Hi.
Sharon.
I'm waving hi.
Hi, Sharon.
So I think the rest of us know each other pretty well. So just for the sake of the recording, I think we should probably just get going into content so that people are not listening to the recording.
Except for Randy, we haven't heard from Randy yet. Hey, Randy.
Oh yeah, Randy. Yeah.
Introduce yourself.
You can just click on that mute button to take the mute off. If you can hear us, Randy. Hey, there you go.
I did that.
Hi. Can you say a quick hello? Oh, well, perhaps he doesn't want to. Shall we move on then?
Okay.
What's he say?
Yeah,
Randy.
here we are. Randy says hello by chat.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Randy.
All right. Okay, then.
So, Michelle, do you want me to do a little bit of a
Sure.
intro on the vision of
Yes,
what
sure.
about
Absolutely.
yeah, just for the sake of the recording and anyone listening here who's not been to an Oracles Arise meeting before, the vision really is, it was something that I've known for a long, long time, that what the scriptures were saying for the ecclesia formation was so different from what is we often see modeled in church. And it's around the priesthood of all believers, in the sense that we all come to bring an equal part to any meeting when we gather. And it's really all about coming and bringing those scriptures about bringing a song, a word, a testimony. It is really so vital, and how the early church modeled any meetings. So what we see now is just so different. And what we're seeing is that the blueprint is that we do an awful lot of, we don't do content so much in meetings. We do an awful lot of walking with God and living out the river of life 24/7, such that we're so full of God, and we've got so many testimonies, so we've heard, so we can hear so well, that when we come together, we bring that. We've got something to bring to the meeting, which then builds up the believers in faith, and everyone's equal. So we don't come hungry, desperate for a word, a sermon, a bit of worship time. We come full because we've been living that life 24/7. And I think that's what we're trying to encourage with this meeting. Now, it might take a while to get to that point, so we may do some content and questions and chatting about what Heavenly Realms means to get to that point. But down the track, if you're able, if you've even got a small thing that you've seen in the week that God's shown you that's really blown you away, if you bring that just absolutely builds up the body, and it stops the teacher, listener, spectator scenario, which we must move away from, because it produces weak disciples. And when you give, you receive. If you constantly keep coming to receive and don't give, that doesn't actually build you up. And often it doesn't mean anything. Often it will just go over your head if you listen to something, because you haven't experienced it with God in the heavenly realms. So that's really what's on my mandate, my scroll, is to raise up people who can hear that heavenly blueprint. They can see it so easily. Like what I find now is I can see that blueprint just all the time. Like what I do is I don't even have to be with other people in encounters. I just set my heart on a problem, or something might pop up. I might even wake up and I'll have something just in my head that'll be absolutely like disturbing my spirit, and I'll reflect on it in heaven, and sometimes a blueprint will just come to me like that. I mean, it's got so quick now that I'm just seeing them all the time, and then I just go immediately into the courts and I deal with that, and then I might do other things in terms of sharing or bringing the body in. Sometimes then I might meet with others about that blueprint to see more detail. But I think that's kind of where we're going with all this heavenly realms, so we can get to that point of operation, that it's so natural and so easy. And then I think our meetings will be really dynamic, because we'll have so many incredible blueprints that are coming from so many different sources, and they're not just one person. And the problem is, when you get a heavy teacher dominated service, that blueprint they're bringing is often not been agreed in the body or debated in the body. So it can actually be a little bit off of the exact blueprint. So this is why I believe that this model is so heavenly, because you're bringing something. You're not even saying you're correct, and that's the thing. You don't have to worry about feeling you've heard right, because you're bringing it to the body for them to go away and reflect in heaven about it, and that takes away the pressure of heresy. You just bring it, and then the others are supposed to go away and debate about it, and that way we will more likely keep on a more correct path, I believe, than what we've had before. I think we've gone off track so much because it has been dominated with one or two people, and it's all been dependent on their ability to hear. And if they haven't debated it a lot in lots of other different circles, or their walk with God is not sort of so strong, that's the way we can get led astray. So this, to me, it's so sensible. It's a safeguard to heresy, and I think that's why it's critical that we all get to this point where we can operate like that. Okay, Michelle, over to you.
That's great. That's great. Thanks, Jane. And we also obviously want to encounter together, in this group. And that's also wonderful too, because we really get a great revelation together. And then we have the witness of that together among one another, that we're seeing and we're hearing this revelation from the Spirit of God, or we're going, through the Holy Spirit. He's taking us places. And so, we actually encounter together, and it's a common encounter that draws us together. And also we have that confirmation that we're in agreement, that we're, which is really wonderful too, because that's helping to establish us. We also felt like that the expression of an oracle is not only being able to see in the realms of heaven what the Holy Spirit shows us and being able to declare that, but also just living as an oracle, living in the reality of being an oracle. As we are oracles, to become just like Jesus, where he only said what he heard the Father tell him. And so that we only lived out and did what he saw the Father show him. So he lived consistently as an oracle of heaven. And so that's my bit on it. And I know Sharon did a little bit of research that she might want to share.
Yes. Hi. I don't know if that's my camera showing something strange, and it sounds weird too.
I think it's Rose.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's Rose.
Good. Yes, my son just distracted me briefly while you were speaking, Michelle, so I missed some of it. But yes, I was really excited to find, as I was searching through scripture about the meanings of prophet, seer, and oracle, and the use of the word oracle was related to the inner sanctuary, which is exciting because that's just what we've been talking about, of an oracle who's spending time in heaven, spending time in the very presence of God, in that Holy of Holies, the inner sanctuary, and then being a person who speaks from that place. And not only that, but carrying the presence of God. So the concept of the oracle was a visible object or a place where a God can speak out of, and that could be a carving, a sculpture, or it could, for the Jews, it was the inner sanctuary of the temple. That was their oracle where God spoke from. But now that's us, and we are the visible representation of God to the world, and speak for him and speaking from a place of intimacy.
Yes.
Very good. Very good.
What about you, Kat? Where are you?
I'm here, just managing the room.
Did you want to share that definition that we worked on as well?
Did we finish? Let me just put it up on the screen, and so we all can look
Okay.
at it together. Maybe read it together. So we came up with this definition, and did we finalize it real fast at the end there?
Do you mind
Yeah.
zooming it in some a little, Kathy, on the bottom right?
Can I what?
Zoom it in a little bit. See right beside the plus beside the 100% at the bottom right?
Oh, sure.
Just so, thank you.
Oh, whoa. Okay, there we go. Oh, there. How's that?
That's great, thanks.
Okay. So, Oracles Arising is a place for the ecclesia to come together in unity to discover how to become a company of oracles and how to legislate and live out that revelation in our individual scrolls, being equipped by the Spirit of Might and revealing our position, releasing unity, justice, and freedom. And the key here is the Spirit of Might. Because when we went in as a bench, Sharon, myself, and Michelle, we were, the Spirit of Might met with us, and we were able to identify the different, what do you want to call them? Not a character, what the Spirit of Might tutors us on. And all of the things that the Spirit of Might, it ties perfectly into this company of oracles. So that's why we wanted to specifically mention Spirit of Might there.
Mhm.
Anyway.
Yes, because I was just going to say that the Spirit of Might, reveals us for position. And so the Spirit of Might met us. It was wonderful. And we realized that we were talking about how we needed the power to be released as oracles, to affect and change, things within the body of Christ in society itself. That we needed that power from the Spirit of Might and His instruction, where He was just revealed to us as being with us in this, to give us the power, because in speaking as an oracle and in releasing those things, we come against the opposition and need to find the ways and the boldness and the courage to be able to speak those things and bring the change and confront the lies that could be in the way of the lies of opposition from religion and religious ideas and so on that could be in the way. So.
Yeah, that's good. And I've just suddenly realized as well as you're talking that the more we get comfortable being an oracle, and it's no big deal. I mean, we only have to say like a sentence, we get comfortable with that in any form of gathering. We then are actually meant to be an oracle to the world.
Yes.
So is when it's flowing out of us, God's just done so much in our lives. It just flows out to us wherever we are, in the shops, the workplace, with non-Christians. It oozes out because we're confident, we're living in the stream, in the river, we're just we just really entangling the whole DNA of heaven, and that I think is another thing where how we evangelize is we don't go out and just find a target to say, if you know about the gospel. It just comes out naturally in our praise, our rejoicing in life, in in our attitude. And so we're sort of being an oracle to the world, and sometimes it's not even in our words.
Yes.
And I was just struck the other day. I actually where was it? That's right. It was a toilet. What do they call it? I was in a public toilet, and there was the lady who looks after the toilets. I went in there. She was singing this Christian song, and she was cleaning these toilets, and they were in a terrible state, but she was so, so happy. And that woman spoke to me by her attitude and singing that song. I could see she was just with God, entangling with God while she was doing her job. And the happiness and the rejoicing that came out of her just spoke to me so much at that time, how you can actually do a mundane job and still, be happy and reach out. So I think that's where we're aiming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's good.
Does anybody have a question or comment? Anybody else?
Hi, Simone.
Hi, I was, I just want, while Jane was saying that, what was coming to me as she was saying that, and the experiences that I've had is, it's like a stream. And it's a stream that comes from heaven. And, it just reminds me of, just how the river of life flows through our gates. And anything can come through those gates, and it can come in any form, but it is coming from heaven. And it manifests in the earth, and it meets the needed situation. And sometimes it's inspiration, sometimes it's an answer, sometimes it's revelation, sometimes it's a song. That's been my experience. I just wanted to share that. So the word stream came to me, and I saw a stream from heaven.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
We were actually in an encounter yesterday, and we just went into the tree of life, and we began to just see how that we as trees of life, Jesus was just saying to us, you're called to live out of heaven, and you're called to live out of heaven to earth, not from earth to heaven. And so which we knew, but he was just showing us that as the tree of life comes out of heaven and it just invades into the earth, that we would release that, we would be those trees, and that we would release those trees, release that light of being the tree into the earth from heaven, living out of heaven, really living consistently and consciously in an intimate relationship in heaven with the Lord. And he said it's time for everything to come from heaven into the earth, no more from the earth into heaven, but from heaven into the earth. Because, and I was just meditating on this, we all know, but I mean, what did the Father do when Jesus died? And it says, and we died with him. It says the Father raised us up together and seated us in heavenly places. He basically hijacked us into heaven right away while we were still sinners through Jesus' death. It says God, and so rich in his mercy, while we were still sinners, Christ died, and God raised us up and seated us in heavenly places. So we've been hijacked into heavenly places. We just didn't realize that that's where we live, move, and have our being. And so from now onwards, we're just going to release from heaven and be those living trees of life, those oracles from heaven. So as it goes along with Simone, with what you're saying about the rivers flowing out of us.
I just had an experience. Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I just had an experience Friday in an ascension that I was in, and we went back to before the foundations of the earth. We went back to eternity. And it was a continuation of our Ascension Wednesday, actually. I was with a group and I led them back there. And we were meditating on just, who we were back then. And the issue of our bodies and our health came up. and just how, you know, the goal is to live and not die, because that's what would have happened, you know, back then. And then, you know, this whole stream of revelation came out of, I mean, for the health industry. And, you know, just seeing what God was saying, how it was back before the foundation. And I think that's an example, a really strong example of what oracles do too, is go see how things were before in eternity so that we can bring it to, into the future and now. I think that's a big, I mean, which is just a part of being the son too. I think as oracles, I mean, it's all about expressing the Father's heart. And I think we have to travel back to how things were before the fall so that we can be a part of restoring it with God. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's rich. Does anybody else have something to share?
Both Becky and Randy need to type their comment. So if you want to share, either of you, I can share. So Randy's asking, is it easy to speak to people in the heavenlies? Well, it's kind of like, not like speaking. You can, because everything is thoughts in heaven. So you can sense their thoughts versus speaking. That's what I understand. Anybody add?
That's true. That's good. Although you can speak also, I believe, you know, you can formulate sentences, but it's more like thoughts, because you're not speaking out loud, but you're speaking to them in your thoughts and your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And they're speaking to you in your thoughts and in their thought. They're speaking their thoughts to you in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I've experienced it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of us are experiencing this almost, you step into people and it's like you like almost fuse your hearts, and then you fuse knowledge of what's in each other's spirits. So I think eventually I think we get to the point where we actually speak less and less because we just know. And I find this a lot now. I just know so many things. I don't really have much of a conversation. I don't pray. I do a lot of stepping in, fusing, entangling the DNA. And then you know, or you just feel this incredible bond. Like I might do that with the men in white linen. I don't really ever have a conversation with the men in white linen. It's like I seek to tap into the very heart of the scroll. And then it's like I feel that, and I know something.
Well, he's asking, like, are we able to have a conversation with our family that has gone on before us? And I know, like, when I saw my dad, the first thing I wanted to do was complain about my living mother. Like, Dad. All he did was kind of ran by and waved. You know, it was like, hey, good to see you. You know, because he was like at least, I don't know, 50 years younger, and I recognized him as a young adult. But he can't even, nothing in heaven can remind you of anything really that's going on earth. And so, you know, because it's just a different place there. So whatever it is that we would like to say to them can only be heaven language. I think. So I don't know. Anybody else have any comments on that?
Well, I've had a couple of different kinds of experiences there where, because of the Great Cloud of Witnesses wanting to engage with you, that I've had some family members engage with me, and one has just given revelation, and one has, in a time when I was really experiencing some attack, but I just went into the realms of heaven, and I'd been praying in the spirit for a while, and then all of a sudden, just their presence and what they said was like a gift to me, that they were recognizing something of who I was. They were affirming me, but it was all more. It wasn't like, and I could have a conversation. I could answer them back or so on. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that, actually having a conversation where you respond back. I mean, I responded back in gratitude. But I agree with Jane, a lot of it is really feeling the thoughts, feeling the heart, to me anyway. Sensing, feeling.
Because I think then you know the whole picture, and I think that's why it's the higher blueprint, because words have such limited ways of communication, whereas when we just know, we know the bigger picture, and sometimes we can't even express that in words because it's so vast. And I think this is why the more people get into heaven, the greater they pick things up, because they just know the big picture. And the rest of us are trying, teachers and things try to explain and break it down, and it sometimes the thing's so complicated. By which time you try to explain anything, you've lost people. But somehow when they're in heaven, they just know. They understand how it works, how angels work, how this works, how that works. And I think that's what we've got to get to, that point that we move more and more away from earthly forms of teaching and communication, which is eating from the tree of knowledge, and more into the tree of life, which is that infused knowledge. I mean, Justin Abraham is probably one of the best oracles, I would say, that's out there at the moment. And he's been saying this for years. He calls it telepathy, and it kind of freaks people out a bit. But I like the word infused knowledge. And he has some great podcasts that just describe how it works. He actually says, I think we'll get to the point where we'll have telepathic hubs. That's in his book, actually. He's got a whole chapter on telepathic hubs, and where we'll just turn up and we'll know. And I think we'll know what's in each other's spirits. And I think we're sort of halfway there when we do some of our encounters. When some of us who've been working together for quite a while, we've really built a mutual honor and respect, and you can feel the unity and the flow in the groups just flows. And a lot of the time we say one thing and everyone's like, oh, yes, I agree. And you can see the difference when you work with other people where you haven't had that. Sometimes there's just no flow. People don't get where you're coming from. They're confused. They're battling this or that. And so I think you can see the difference, how there is this infused knowledge is beginning to show in encounters. And that comes out beautifully in benches when you actually really build solid relationships for a long time. Then you just really flow really well.
So Becky also had a question. She said, in restoring perfect health, as in the garden, would technologies that have been suppressed to restore health be used in healing versus supernatural healing without use of technology?
Oh, do you want to read that again? That was quite a deep question, isn't it?
Actually, let me read her other one because it's kind of going along with the communication. She says, in addressing communication, this is her saying, when I get to know someone so well, you can know what the other is wanting to express without verbal communication. I would expect this is also when we get to know each other's spiritual entity. As we get to know them, we know how they respond and think. And I think that's what we were talking about, just agreeing. So the other question was, in restoring perfect health, as in the garden, would technologies that have been suppressed to restore health be used in healing versus supernatural healing without use of technology?
I know my comment, that I don't know that anyone would agree, would be definitely supernatural. Because I think that what happens is that the covenant that Jesus made is fulfilled, that by his stripes we were healed. The whole of his life and death, I mean, resurrection was all about the coming into the wholeness and restoration to the original, to our origin. And so, I mean, I think technologies are secondary, lower frequency.
Yeah.
I would agree with you, Michelle. I feel like the technology is almost like a mercy. It's second to what God ideally wants us to have or to be, but I feel like it's I don't know if mercy is the right way, but it's almost mercy, especially to those that still don't know him. There's still a way that they can be healed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of based on your faith.
Exactly. And just like, the Bible says he allows the rain to fall on the sinner, the evil man and the good man. I think God, he wants everybody to have a good life, even if they aren't in him yet. And I feel like the technology, the medicine it's a lower level, but it's still a way to experience health, even if you aren't at the level where you can experience it in a supernatural way.
Yes, I agree. That's good.
I have some thoughts about that. Healing is one of my areas, and so what I would say is let's broaden our understanding of the word technologies and see that what God has put in creation are technologies, and so that includes substances that we eat, that we might eat regularly, or substances we might have occasionally from medicinal reasons like herbs that he's put in creation, as well as healing principles like light and touch and sound. They are all technologies in a sense that are part of creation. And I was listening to a teaching by Arthur Burke about physical methods that activate our spirit. And so I would love to hear people's input on that, about those areas of what might be technologies but are part of creation that are used to activate our spirit and to enhance our health.
Yeah, so both Randy said, I don't think we would need technology. We just need faith to operate in the kingdom realm. And then Becky, I believe a lot has been suppressed in the medical arena to keep us sick. Once this is removed, there will be unheard of miraculous creative pathways. Yeah. Because I was thinking of like making essential oils, the technology that we have in order to extract the oils, that kind of technology. So I guess there's different ways to look at it.
It seems like a mix, though, doesn't it? Because in heaven, there are vehicles. And the reason why we have vehicles is because they're in heaven, but they don't operate like the ones in heaven. You know what I mean? And then, even the way our body heals, our body still can heal itself, but it would have been, but in heaven, they don't get sick. I mean, you see what I'm saying? So we're kind of, what's the word I want to say? It's changed because of the fall, but it's in the midst of being restored. And we're part of that we're part of that restoration in partnership with God as sons of God. I guess I would say.
Yeah, and I would say we would live out of different eras, or different eras. You can live out of the realm of eternity. You think about Enoch and how he lived, and he did not die. His body did not experience death. So we can live out of the different eras, the era of rest, the era of the place of eternity. We can live out of different places that we're at based on our knowledge and intimacy with God. So, but I don't. I do hear what Sharon's saying, and I think it was Becky who brought it up, whoever brought it up, but that I feel that there will be more technologies come up that will really help people, not the medical field that has the pharmakeia with it, which is not helpful. Those things that have been destructive, that there will come now technology that will really help people.
Yeah, that's already happening. There's so many, health's one of my mandates, so I've done an awful lot of legislating around major cures for health things, and I'm always on the lookout. And on Facebook, there is so many posts now about new technologies coming out that are all light-based, and they're so simple. And there's no side effects. It's nothing like taking tablets, nothing like chemo. There's just showing how light can, smash a glass and so it can cure cancer and you name it. Most of the major diseases now, there has come out completely new cures that are just so simple, and they're not the old ways. And that's what's so wonderful, is that I think we're starting to see the release of these, and the fear of being ill is going, and that in itself increases people's frequency, because they're not so afraid of getting ill and then thinking, well, if I get ill, this is the treatment, and it's so horrendous. And the biggest thing I would say, in fact, I was actually given a word this morning about, because health is one of my mandates. I was constantly in this mode of looking for evidence, particularly myself, of what of how these heavenly things were working on my own health. And the word I had this morning was about not looking inwardly as to what's outwardly, into your circumstances, but looking and keep focusing on the inward relationship that is immune to what's happening in your life. And I realized I'd got the whole thing the wrong way around. I was looking and looking for evidence and evidence. Is this improving? Is that improving? Instead of being in the unique bliss of relationship, intimacy, and living out my scroll, such that whatever's happening in my life is almost secondary. And then in itself, I think the outcome is when you have that high frequency, that you are just on a high, enjoying everything, regardless of the ups and downs of life, the byproduct is your frequency goes up, which then improves your health, which in the end it can often just disappear. But even if it doesn't, you're in absolute bliss anyway, because you're not focusing on, is this improved, has that improved in my life? If you can see the difference. And just to give an illustration, ages and ages ago, I had these dull ache in my stomach for a long time, and I went on this track of trying all these different foods, all the naturopathic methods, all the doctors. I went for tests on was it this food, that food. I was changing my diet. I was desperately on this healthy eating, cutting out, you name it, I cut out virtually everything. And it was such a miserable life. I was obsessed with what I ate. I had no freedom to feel I could eat anything. I was constantly thinking it's going to make me feel this pain again. And then one day I'd had enough. Oh, and I couldn't get any conclusive thing on what was from the tests. I mean, it was a merry-go-round. I had enough one day, and I decided I was not going to think about it anymore. I was going to eat normally. I just forgot about it. I just started eating normally, and I carried on with my life. And then a few weeks later, I realized I didn't have any problems. I was just so incredible. Yeah. And I was so happy because I was living as a victorious king, victorious over this. I wasn't standing for any nonsense over that. It had just gone. I'd made that decision. I was ruling on that mountain, and it was gone. And I was not going back on this path of doctors and naturopaths and even healthy eating, which is, can still send you around in circles. So yeah, it was a really interesting scenario.
Yeah. Speaking of healthy eating, I was just like, Lord, Jesus, you knew how to eat and drink in the earth, and I'm with you. Forget all these other things, Just let me walk with you in that.
So the key would be to learn how to be oracles regarding this, like for people, other people. Anyway, I'm just wanting to tie it to our being an oracle.
Oh. So I think I was talking with Nancy about this today. Mike Parsons said, I think it was Nancy was in a conversation with Mike Parsons, and she had noticed that he wasn't wearing his glasses anymore. Oh, no. It was another young woman. I'm sorry. It was another woman. She noticed that he wasn't wearing his glasses anymore. He said he didn't need them anymore. And he got healed from some other things too. And he said it was because that he lives out of the heavenly realms, out of eternity. And so what's happened is it stopped him from aging. And so it reversed his eyesight and some other things in his body. And he talked about he thinks it'll even reverse any dental problems, just anything in their bodies. So just to go with what you had said, Michelle, just has sparked that conversation in my mind.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm also, I'm reading in one of Ian Clayton's books, and I've determined that as I read it, I don't need glasses. So I just sit there and say, I can read this, I can see this, I know it, I know I can see it. And I just hang there until I start to read it. And there it comes. Okay.
Oh, wow.
You just possess it because it's ours, And it says that day will come, even if you did believe that you were going to die, that you would be 100 years old, you would still be young. You'll be considered young if you're 100 and you died. And so we can just possess that, Yeah. I think we've had so much of enough of the corruption of what medicine brought. And I was a pharmacist, so I know when I became a believer, I didn't want to be a pharmacist anymore. So, but I mean, just all the corruption that's there just because of, the wisdom of the world as opposed to the wisdom of God. that it's so time for us to not only, I mean, to press forward to every level we can, but also to help those, as you said, Jane, who, you know, in the earth today. And that's something that Justin said he saw in the future, was that everybody was healthy, everybody was fulfilling their scroll. And it was one of the things that he said that he saw, you know, in the future, everybody was full of bliss, was healthy, and was fulfilling their scroll. And there was no economy like we know economy. So by going into eternity and into these places and seeing what it's like, that we bring that not only to get that revelation, but to possess it. So I think an oracle possesses everything. Don't they? Doesn't he or she?
Mm. I've got another oracly thing I'd love to share, if I may.
Sure.
It's really been burning in my spirit.
We can't see your face, Jane.
Oh, sorry. It's really been burning in my spirit for quite a while now, probably 3 weeks. And just as we're getting along the road of building lots of benches for lots of different mountains, you know, we've just developed, in the last couple of weeks, it's been a huge flow. We've had health, trafficking, poverty, business, some new wineskin groups forming. And I was really excited with that, but my spirit was perturbed because I was feeling that it could lead us to a distraction from building the new wineskin initially, and we could rush away and be so involved in trying to fix the earth in these different domains. And what I felt as I engaged heaven about it, what I saw was the need to understand that the movement of the new wineskin is still really in the early days, and it's not to be taken for granted that it will just materialize and appear. And so I saw the higher picture, that if we take upon ourselves, it's our responsibility, it's every believer's responsibility to bring the new wineskin forth. It's not just for some who have it on their mountains and others that don't. If every believer took that upon it themselves and saw that as part of their scroll, the bigger picture is we will actually have more of an impact on the earth than if we just decide on a few small mountains that we're going to legislate over and do all the bench stuff. Because the more of those benches we will have, the more mature sons will come forth from us working on the new wineskin at the moment. So that's what I'm feeling, is that not to just think it's just for a few, or to think it will just happen. There is still a lot of obstacles, and for us to really, I suppose, ask heaven to what extent that is are we being called to that responsibility of bringing the new wineskin forward.
That's perfect, Jane.
Has anyone else got anything, even if it's really small, you know, just something, or even just something you learnt in an encounter recently? I mean, there's got to be some new things there. I mean, we had one yesterday. It was dynamic in the the open chat on Messenger. If you're part of that, get to read it, because well, the experience was incredible. I'll share if no one else has got anything to share, but it was good. Anyone got anything else?
I have something really quick. It has to go back to the health thing. And this came out of an ascension, that ascension I was talking about on Friday. And just it was just a revelation that the reason we need to maintain our health, it was a switch of mentality, because sometimes the church as a whole is thinking about going to heaven, but gazing back to eternity, on what was before the fall. God created the earth to come down and dwell with us, and that's why we need the health industry to help us maintain our bodies like God wanted us to, so that we can live and not die. And it was that's a huge revelation. But it just came out in the ascension. It was really powerful, and just that it was just a change of focus, that we're to live and not die, and that's why we have to restore and redeem the health industry, so that it can help even people that don't know God yet work unto that. So that's all I want to share.
Yeah, that's really resonates, Simone, because that's actually what I've been doing for a long time now, is constantly stretching my spirit over scientists, researchers, and even the entrepreneurs who will bring these new discoveries to market, for creativity, for acceleration, for ideas. And that we will just move as a society to a much higher level of health and cures and awareness. Even awareness is incredible. That there's stuff out there that has been known for decades and decades. Beautiful, simple cures that have been proven, that are just so hidden to the general public, that I see all that just needs to go in a huge accelerated, it's what we can do through legislation, and also through anything. As a king, we have immense power, and bringing court cases just to move us on. We've got to get past this. It's almost archaic, the way we operate. Even a lot of detections are so primitive, and I can feel my whole spirit for a long time has been crying out for new methods of detection that are more accurate, and we're not left these people just going from test after test and getting incorrect results or false positives. I've had that with breast cancer for a long time. I've been legislating over a lot better detection and what do you call them, tests. So it's we can do so much. That's what's so wonderful. But I think that's why we need to raise mature sons who really know how to take these things to the higher and higher levels and the higher courts, and get more authority, and also the more agreement we have on earth with everyone in agreement, the more that will be done in heaven. So we've got this incredible tool, but at the moment we don't really know how to use it very well, and we're still very amateur, and most of us are still probably, I feel in my spirit most of us are probably we still only know a fraction of the story, and there's so much more we need to do to actually be effective on the earth. So I think that's why we've got to keep pursuing the journey, that we're not missing some vital parts that are really going to increase the effectiveness of what we're doing.
That was good, Jane. If everybody else doesn't have anything else, I got one other quick thing, but I'll give somebody else a chance.
Oh, I'll just read Becky's. She just posted, there is a new component in senior flu vaccine, something which was in the experimental vaccine in our military anthrax vaccine that people got really sick with, and also has mercury in it to make us sick. So we can eliminate elderly. Getting into conspiracy here, I realize. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that whole thing about the vaccines, I mean, that's another thing on my scroll. I've been doing that. And I think the health group now that's just formed, we've been talking about whether to go in for vaccines, and a few people have been really feeling a mandate for that. That whole vaccine scenario has got to change. We've got to get back. We've either got to forget vaccines and find something else, or be able to produce something that's not toxic. So that's another huge area we can legislate from, if enough people can pull together and form benches around that.
Yeah, I think on that one, Jane, I was just going to say that the change of mind about things, because the vaccine is based on the fear that you might get a disease, so you're going to put it in you in a little way so that your body will not get the big part of the disease. So it's fear-based, the whole thing. So that would mean a complete change of mind about the fear of sickness and disease.
Yeah, yeah.
So some of these things are just related to, what you actually believing, in other words, where your faith is at. And the stimulation of fear, like you must come and get this medicine, or you have to go to your doctor, it's all fear-based. That we got to remove the fear of sickness and death and help people realize there's so many things, even in the scripture, that I've seen that Maria Woodworth Etta even used, and she saw amazing miracles happen. But that she even used in the scriptures, it's very plain. It says, like, a merry heart does good like a medicine. It also says things that, if you fear the fear of the Lord heals the bones. And so there are specific things even in the scripture that we can even throw those truths out to people, so that the society can see those words, and say, oh, maybe I need to get a relationship with God. It's like, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
I'm wondering if we gain some clarity on the question as Simone has raised, and Randy here also. Is it not too far-fetched to decree that we might live and not die? What might we expect? And I've got two things in mind about that. One is that I've believed since I've heard it as a testimony, that there were people who had such faith for perfect health in this life that when it was their time to die, and it was, a couple decades ago now, in the Lord, that he just took them home one evening. They passed away peacefully, and this lady's husband and wife. And I don't think it was the same night, by the way. And then other stories which, from the Old Testament, of those who were taken up didn't pass through death at all. No need for a coffin funeral, because they were taken straight up and weren't seen again. What might we expect? Is this even worth taking to an ascension?
Well, what's coming to me now, I just feel I'm hearing from heaven, is that the whole thing about not dying comes, it comes from relationship and intimacy, not the other way around. And that's what I perceive happened with Enoch, that his relation, he walked with God so closely, that his whole DNA was transformed, and so he skipped death. But I think if we focus the other way, it actually pulls us down and lowers our frequency, and actually even pulls us away from intimacy, because we become so consumed about our bodies and whether it's healthy and how we're doing. And I think that's what I was trying to say earlier. I felt I got into this trap, and it was actually pulling me down instead of focusing so much on intimacy and living out my scroll, that the health was almost came as a byproduct. I don't know, what do others think about that?
Absolutely true.
Yes, I'd agree there. Yeah. Definitely important perspective and priorities.
I experienced the same thing, and I was really heavy into. I did that raw food eating for a long period of time years ago, and it became heavy. It was like a religion, just like Jane said, and it just bogged me down. And what's interesting is Chris Blackaby said that he experienced that same thing, and so I just wanted to say that.
That's interesting.
I'm noticing how many people on here are connected to health. Isn't that an interesting connection that a lot of us have?
Yes, it does actually, yeah.
Do you feel like that's brought some clarity to the question about living and not dying and health?
I mean, we know that the truth is that we have been given everlasting life. What Jesus did was take death to death in the cross. So he basically destroyed death. He took the power of death away, because death only came through sin. So when Jesus took sin, he took death and hell and destroyed its power. So we've been given everlasting, eternal, incorruptible, transformed life. It's just the possessing of it. And I believe that we can possess it at any time. I believe we can live out of different ages at any given, at any time. I used to believe that there would be a moment, because I know the scripture says in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, there'll be a transformation, that those that are in the earth will be transformed, and those that had died will be raised up. So I used to believe that at a moment it would come, and I still do believe that, but I also believe that if Enoch could have experienced it then, long before that scripture, then how much more can we not at any time experience it? And, Ian has testified that he has had relationship with people that are over 200 years old that still live. So I just believe that, I won't die. It's funny, but I've believed that from almost the time I became a believer. It was like a sense of knowing that was in me. And I just stand in that. Yeah, there you go.
Wow, that's really amazing. I don't know if I'm at that point yet, but I know one thing that just I constantly keep getting reminded of every time I do an encounter is, we have got to allow acceleration to happen in our whole way of doing Heavenly Realms. And I saw this in the encounter we had yesterday, and we we saw that we could not have a lot of the old protocol ways of doing things that we have been doing so far will begin to fade as we move to a higher age, and the age of rest and peace. And so if we allow that, we can to move and change the way we do things. We can begin to find new accelerated ways which are light-based. It would appear exactly the same as how we're saying with health and everything. There was so many light things came out yesterday that just had these miraculous impact, that it went way beyond all the slow protocol of bloodline cleansing and all the stuff that we're just seeing coming out now, which I mean, when you do it for a while, it becomes so burdensome. I mean, I'm at that point now. I'm like, how can I possibly balance all these benches? I've got interests and hearts and desires to see this and this, and how can I keep all this going and that going and doing this and this? And I was beginning to feel really exhausted. And what we saw was, it was amazing. We actually ended up going through a new veil that revealed more about the age of peace and rest. And we saw that the age of peace was about living and engaging your future self. So we actually went in along the timeline, saw our future self, and like fused with it so that we knew what our future self knows, which allows acceleration. And we also saw it was a way of identifying our scrolls really, really quickly. So we asked what to see what our future self was doing. And I had this incredible picture of what I was doing. I mean, it just blew me away. And it's so, because it inspired my soul. I felt so alive. And I saw this whole new way of doing Heavenly Realms that was quicker, less burdensome, more joyful. It was really wonderful. So I think that's the challenge is, to what extent can we really keep allowing ourselves to change things, particularly if we build a bit of a ministry out of doing one particular thing. I mean, that's the challenge. And that's what happened with the church, that once they'd set up lots of infrastructure and ways of doing things on a certain protocol, they didn't want to let it go. So I think that's the challenge that we've got to be careful not to build too much infrastructure that's sort of static, and then even if we build a little bit, to let that go and then move on to the next higher age, because I think that's where we'll see the bigger picture materialize in our lives.
Is it okay if I say something? I can't do the audio right now.
Of course.
Hi. I was on that last night. I'm trying to get my head around what you guys are all saying, because I've walked in such a different way. The health thing, I mean, we were to walk in divine health. I mean, that was the way it should be. I've always believed that, and I know that through the intimate relationship I have with God, that health has not been hasn't been a problem. It hasn't been part of the equation, because the equation was full of my relationship with God, the Word made flesh. When the Word was made flesh, then it was like I didn't have to. I had that, we're creative light. I had the understanding we're creative light, and that light releases in, over, through, and around us an ability to be whole. And I mean, I've perceived that. I've been a mission field, and I've been overseas and walked that, and literally have walked that. So I know that's true, because that's part of my testimony. The other thing about the medical fields and all of that, that I'm just listening to this and I'm thinking, if we're in heaven and we're orchestrating this from heaven and what the original intent and birthright and the original blueprint of what Daddy God had intended for us, that we're to go back to the beginning, then when you think about going back to the beginning, I see more of a spiritual, supernatural healing, a walking in a telepathic, not only in speaking, but a telepathic healing and just being able to create those things. And I think we had an example of that last night, just seeing it in the spirit, being able to create those things as we were in heaven, as we were being ignited and as pillars of light, of the light of God, the reconnection of the voice and the frequency. I just feel there's a lot of things that are not clarified yet because one thing or another, as the ecclesia, all of us that are all these separate ecclesias, as we all start walking as one voice, I believe there's going to be such a strong move and shifting in the spirit that some of these things that we look at, the medical field, all of those things are going to, I think, are just going to fall away because there's going to be a better way to do some of this. I don't know if this makes any sense to anyone, but I just see it I see it differently. I see it from perspective of heaven, and I don't think we need to involve, or involves not the word. I don't think we need to put our knowledge of what we know here, how to facilitate what we're to have up there. I believe God's gonna, and I felt that's what we had last night on the ascension. I felt that there is the original intent of what he's formed is beginning to know, because we all should know these things. If we're all going back to the beginning, back to the original intent of who we are, as we search and seek and get healing of, then we're going to know a part of us we hadn't known before, and we're going to be able to move together in that part because we've all been formed and shaped from that same thing, because it's all out of the heart of God. Is that really out there? It probably is.
No, it's excellent.
No, that's how I feel.
Yeah, because all of this, I don't want to put anything of this earth around what God's doing, because what I experienced yesterday, and I've experienced that before, that's not something I can even, it's like being in heaven and wanting to take a dive into the earth and swim in the earth. And I'm like, last night we took a dive into heaven and we stayed in heaven, and I'm still there. I would have to tell you, I'm still there, and I'm still on fire, and my insides are burning. And I've been seeing myself as a white pillow, blue flame. And, I'm not going to, I believe it has something to say. And I believe it's the very thing that's going to change people in a second, in an inkling of the eye. I believe as the more that we are in heaven, the more of heaven is going to be released through us. And I think that the connection of heaven's going to become greater, that nothing on this earth is going to stand. So, that's just the way I see it. And as far as the thing I do know also about shots and stuff, a lot of these shots are not even up to date. They're on years past flu stuff. So really, basically, it's not even helping or assisting taking care of it. It's all, some of these shots are just, and we've heard about it, that they're not good for kids. They're not. And I know there's been legislation from other groups that have been legislating on the same thing. And I know that is very much on the heart of everyone, to facilitate the medical field and all of this transition. I believe the transition into what God's called is going to be so powerful, and it's going to be beyond what we know or see. And the future, last night we stepped in the future. I've walked in the future now. I've always walked in the future now. And I believe that God has each of us becoming knowledgeable and becoming, through the intimate relationship, begin to seeing us in the future, because that's the way we always have been. That's what we're remembering. We're remembering the way we should always be. We're remembering the way that God made us. And we've been brainwashed to not remember it. Anyway, so that's it.
Woo, Jill, that's a real example of being an oracle. That's fabulous, fabulous.
Yes, it made me laugh.
Yeah. Can I clarify though, because this is bringing up a question for me in my scroll. Are you saying then that there's almost we don't need to go through this whole bench kind of scenarios and forming benches and
I don't know, but I see things are starting to evolve. But I know that the benches until God does a shift, I believe when you step into, like last night, we stepped into something we didn't even know, but we stepped into something and God shifted it. God did that. Jesus did that. He was there. God was there. I saw him in the black cloud when I saw a black cloud and I knew, I was like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? And I just know that we don't know, but I know that we have to earnestly move forward and be diligent to what God's given us right now until he changes it. And when he changes it, we're all going to know, because in our spirit, we're going to say, oh, we're moving on up. And so I've just watched from the beginning a lot of a lot of the court stuff and then I watched it get out of hand, and then I watched it, the intent, motive, and agenda of the heart of people just totally get out of hand. And then, and then I've watched it, but then I've also watched those that have been diligent to keep their heart pure, to keep and Jane, I just want to say that's something about the Ecclesia framework that I think I've even emailed or texted you or whatever. That's something true to this particular group, is that you've been honest and pure, and heart, the love of the heart of the Father is in this. And that's where the intimate relationship is. And that's what's so important is if you're hearing the heartbeat of the Father and you're tuned into the frequency of his voice, and his voice is totally vibrating your whole body, then you are going to step into the next phase, and it's going to be a transition and into something new continually. And so I'm not going to say the benches are wrong, but I just know that if it looks like the old, if it smells like the old, then it is the old. And I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just saying that's always, and sometimes God's really funny with me. I can smell things like it's old, and then I'll know, oh no, there's something else I need to pursue and look. And that's why walking and stepping into the future now, when you step into the future now, you're looking, and it's revelation, but you're looking into the future, and it's not just it's the future of what Daddy wants, and it's a future of his inheritance, because we're his inheritance. So it's just a walk that's very solid, and it's very, it's spontaneous. I don't know how else to describe it, but I know that we all are capable of it. We all are born into it. It's the original intention of what he's called us to do. It's the thing we've been brainwashed not to do. And as we come into full memory and remembrance of what it is, it's going to be like a suddenly.
It's awesome. I don't think the benches are ever move away, because there's always government in heaven. I mean, as I understand it, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, the seven spirits before the throne. What I do see, but just what just come to me now, is that I feel like the benches that are being formed must be formed out of the heavenly revelations that we get, not out of trying to change the 7 mind molding mountains of society. And I think that's where the shift is for me, and seeing that, we just can, we can tend to try and look at a mountain and want a bench over, say, the health, like we've been looking at tonight, or we can continue to engaging so much in heaven and receiving of heaven, so that the benches we form will not be tied to what we've known, a mountain in the earth or a part of society in the earth to be. Because if everything's changing, like the economic system won't be there in the future. And we had an encounter in which we went into eternity, and we saw that what was actually happening was that we were trading into each other. And that was actually what the trade was. It wasn't a money thing or anything, but we were trading into each other who we were in eternity, the different aspects of who we were. And that was what was taking place, rather than trading with money and stuff. So I feel like that we've just got, what our eye hasn't seen, our ear hasn't heard, that somebody posted that just now. It hasn't entered our heart what God's prepared for us, but the Spirit reveals it to us. That so that we just keep our focus and don't limit the benches or the governmental, not say, we've got to form a bench over the health thing, but rather we're coming into heaven to see, and then what we see in heaven we can release as a legislation more. That's what I'm seeing anyway.
That's really interesting. I'm trying to get my brain around that. So it's more release it as a legislation. So are you saying like we're more of a move away from presenting and formulating long cases, but just we see something and we can almost just sort of
you know what I think it is, Jane? I think it's just stepping away consistently from looking from the earth once again to try and go into heaven and legislate about something on the earth, rather than, like Jesus said, seek my kingdom first. And so we come with Holy Spirit for his agenda, and let his agenda then shape, so that what we are now, so we can present something brand new.
I get you. I
agree with that.
Yeah, that is good. That is really good. Because I've almost felt a pressure to, like, from the people to kind of take them through, the formulation of some case and do it all really kind of regally and formally. And that's not really my gifting either. I'm much more in the flow of things, and just like, I'll just go somewhere, infuse it, and that's the way I do court cases now. I mean, I don't go out and write some long page. I've just got so many different components that I've assimilated, and I just go before the court and go, right, there you go, what's in my spirit there, and I present it within a second. And that's the way I operate now. And I want to do that with the groups, but I can feel this pull downwards. But that's liberated me a little bit more to feel that we can just, move to a more accelerated way. Because I think if none of us are going to be able to sustain, doing all this stuff, if we're taking 3 or 4 hours together for one small element, we're all soon going to burn out really quickly, and it's going to become really boring and really dry. I can see that coming very quickly. But I can also see an element that there's something good about when people have been through that whole process of learning a bench, learning how to get an agreement, and also learning how to present cases individually before all the different courts, and then being given responsibility as a chancellor, or even being invited on the court of 70. I can see something in that process that is actually really maturing compared to, I've seen others who dismissed benches completely, and then it's just about intimacy and transfiguration. Something didn't sit right with my spirit, and that's certainly my journey has been one of getting a lot more responsibility through the court system. And it's almost like I'm releasing some of the court protocols now in my own personal walk. But because I've been through them, I've been awarded certain positions in certain courts, which I know has given me greater authority just to go there and say, you know, right, this is what I've seen, and know that there's more respect and influence there. So I almost see it's like a mixture, but it's very hard to communicate to those whose their whole spirit's like, I don't want anything to do with legislation and benches. It's way too heavy and legalistic.
Well, by you saying that, I really, I feel like it comes right back to desire and intimacy. And, when I began all of this, Father started teaching me about the courts before it was even something. I mean, I was going, okay, God, Daddy God, is anybody else doing it? And then he led me to Ian Clayton. So, I feel like the intimate level, the intimacy is so important for everyone. And when they start getting into the diligence of legalism, of religious, of ritualistic, of how to do this, that, and the other thing, then they're taking time away from Daddy and taking time away, because I believe that's time when God wants you to move into the courts and everything. God will release it in you to do those things. And I just know that's how it worked for me. But I know things are working a little differently with everybody. But I think the background is the diligence of the intimate relationship with Father. And from that desire, everything else comes from.
This has been wonderful. I think for the sake of the video, we might look to winding up, though we can, of course, continue talking. What I really value in the conversation is emphasis on, firstly, intimacy. That's my love and my passion as well. And then remaining open to what's new and progressing, and like the phrase Jane uses well as not taking camp, not clinging on to anything, but just having the freedom to be with God without any grasping to hold on to something, or being overly opinionated that something has to always be the way that we think it ought to be. So I'm loving the intimacy, I'm loving the humility in that, and I'm loving the freedom and the willingness to continue to learn and grow.
Thank you. Yeah, we should probably just wind up the recording, but yeah, thank you everyone. It's been the most incredible. I've just sensed a real flow in the discussion and the oracling. We've invented a new phrase, oracling now.
Oracling.